In November 1974, a 26-year-old musician drove alone to his parents' house in the English countryside. He hadn't released an album in 2 years. He had no friends left, no label, no money. Within weeks, he would be gone. But here is what nobody tells you. Nick Drake didn't disappear. He was never really found in the first place. Nicholas Rodney Drake was born in Burma in 1948 to a family that carried music in its bones. His mother Molly composed songs. His father Rodney played piano. The house in Tanworth in Arden was always filled with sound. Nick was quiet, exceptionally quiet. Teachers described him as gentle, almost unreachable, a boy who seemed to be listening to something no one else could hear. He was also gifted. Clarinets, piano, saxophone. He picked up instruments the way other children picked up toys. But it was the guitar that kept him. By the time he arrived at Cambridge University in 1967, the world was loud. Vietnam protests, the Summer of Love, Dylan, the Beatles. Everyone was shouting something. Nick Drake whispered. It was at a Cambridge folk club in 1967 that everything changed. A young American producer named Joe Boyd walked in. Boyd had already worked with Pink Floyd. He had ears that heard things others missed. Nick Drake walked onto that small stage, sat down and played alone. No introduction, no banter, just the songs. Boyd would later say it was unlike anything he had ever heard, a sound completely out of time, as if Drake had arrived from somewhere music hadn't been yet. Within months, Nick Drake had a record deal with Island Records. He was 19 years old. 5 Leaves Left was released in 1969. The title came from the warning slip inside a packet of Rizla rolling papers, the note that told you something was almost gone. The album was extraordinary. String arrangements by Robert Kirby, a fellow Cambridge student, draped themselves around Drake's guitar like morning fog. Critics noticed. A few, not many. The public barely heard it at all. Nick Drake refused to promote it. No interviews, no tours, no radio appearances. Island Records pushed. Drake pulled away. The reason, those close to him would later say, was not arrogance. It was terror. Brighter Later came in 1970. Warmer, jazzier, more arranged. Joe Boyd threw everything at it, hoping the sound would reach people Drake himself could not. It sold even fewer copies than the first. Something broke in Nick Drake after that. Not loudly. Nick Drake never did anything loudly. Friends stopped hearing from him. Phone calls went unanswered. He moved back to his parents' house in Tanworth. He sat in his room. He played guitar to no one. Depression, though nobody used that word then. They said he was difficult, withdrawn, ungrateful. In 1972, Nick Drake walked into a recording studio alone. No producer, no arranger, no band. In 2 nights, just 2 nights, he recorded Pink Moon, 11 songs, 28 minutes. He delivered the master tape to Island Records reception, left it with the receptionist. Didn't speak to anyone, walked back out. Pink Moon sold less than 5,000 copies. Island Records dropped him quietly. The music press ignored it entirely. By 1974, Nick Drake was 26. Living in his childhood bedroom, dependent on antidepressants, unable to play guitar for months at a time. On the 25th of November, 1974, he ate dinner with his parents. They said he seemed better that evening, almost like his old self. In the early hours of the morning, Nick Drake went to his room, took a large dose of his prescribed medication, and did not wake up. He was 26 years old. The coroner recorded an open verdict. Whether it was accident or intention, nobody ever truly knew. At the time of his death, Nick Drake had sold fewer than 20,000 records across 3 albums. Today, those same albums have sold millions of copies worldwide. Pink Moon alone was licensed to a Volkswagen commercial in 1999, and overnight an entire generation heard Nick Drake for the first time. He never knew. He never got to see it. That is the cruelest part of Nick Drake's story. Not the silence during his life, but the sound that came after. If this story moved you, there are more. Every day, a new legend, a new story nobody told. Subscribe to Unheard and Gone, and don't miss a single one.